My name is Bob Johnson, co-author with Janet Byron of the book Berkeley Walks, and I also organize walking tours in Berkeley, California. This video about Lilian Bridgman will be the first in a series on trailblazing women architects who contributed to the Berkeley landscape. Lilian Bridgman was born in eastern Kansas in 1866. A childhood accident forced her to use a crutch throughout her life, though she was later an avid walker and hiker. She graduated from the Kansas State Agricultural College in 1888 with a degree in science, and a textbook enticed her west to Berkeley to further her studies. She earned her master's degree in science in 1893 under Professor Joseph LeConte at the University of California, Berkeley. From 1893 to 1912, Bridgman taught physics and chemistry at various schools and junior colleges in California, including the California School of Mechanical Arts. During this time, she also wrote short stories and poetry, which were published in magazines such as the Overland Monthly, McClure's, Harper's, and the Century magazine. With the help of Bernard Maybeck, Bridgman designed and built her first house in 1899, 16 years before she got her architectural license. Intrigued by her experience with architecture and frustrated with her low-paid teaching career, in 1912, Bridgman again enrolled at the University of California, Berkeley, this time to study drawing and architecture. After working in the office of prominent Berkeley architect Walter Ratcliffe Jr., she was licensed as an architect by the state of California in 1915 and opened her own office in downtown Berkeley. While not as well known as architects such as Julia Morgan, Bridgman worked steadily, designing more than 15 homes during her career. After the Berkeley fire of 1923, which devastated much of North Berkeley, Bridgman, along with other local architects, helped rebuild the area. She was also one of the founding members of the Hillside Club that promoted simple design in harmony with nature, and she gave community lectures about building homes. Lilian Bridgman's first house still stands behind me here at 1715 La Loma Avenue in Berkeley. In 1898, she fell ill, and it was during her convalescence that she was inspired to create this first house. Her friend Bernard Maybeck encouraged her to sketch out her ideas. She bought a Berkeley property in the hills north of campus and hired the architect William Knowles to do the construction drawings. The house focuses on natural light and views of the San Francisco Bay. The home's exterior is clad with brown shingles, as typical for First Bay tradition houses. The interior featured local unpainted redwood paneling and built-in window seats that could be transformed into beds for visitors. In 1908, she added a studio on the upper part of the property, which would later serve as her architectural office. For many years, Lilian Bridgman lived with her sister Irene, a nurse, sometimes staying in the studio and renting out the front house to boarders. As this photo of the main house shows, the design is fairly simple, but has subtle features such as the eave that turns outward at the bottom of the roof. Many of her clients were prominent women in the Bay Area. In 1918, she designed a house in Niles, now Fremont, for Millicent Washburn Shinn, where Shinn's family had a sizable property near Alameda Creek. The home was later moved out of the floodplain to 1119 Maury Avenue, but is set back from the street behind foliage, and we thus do not have a good photo of it. Shinn was a child psychologist and the first woman to earn a doctorate at UC Berkeley. She was also an editor for the Overland Monthly and gained renown for her writing about child psychology. The house where she grew up is now a historical park. Bridgman then designed a house at 1404 Leroy Avenue for a notable Berkeley woman, Mary Blossom Davidson. The house was built in 1918 and then rebuilt in 1924 after the 1923 fire. Davidson was UC Berkeley Den of Women and persisted in efforts to get university-owned residences for men and women, and the Leroy home was regularly visited by students and her son's friends. The house is also in brown shingle, like La Loma, but somewhat more adventurous, with both brown shingle and vertical board siding on different levels, as well as outlying rafters. At 1020 Cragmont, Bridgman designed a home for Professor Frederick T. Bialetti, who was born in England but came to the U.S. as a teenager and became interested in viticulture and helped California wineries refine their practices. He was the first professor of viticulture and taught many years at Berkeley. The home for them in the North Berkeley Hills, at what was originally addressed 2440 Martinez and now 1020 Cragmont Avenue, was significantly expanded and remodeled in the 1960s, and has thus probably lost some of its original design. A charming cottage near Blackberry Creek at 1236 Bonita was done in 1920 for Kate Rawlinson Gumpertz, a UC doctor who graduated from the UC Medical School. This house, like her other early works, puts the front door on the side rather than facing the street. This house at 1629 La Vereda Road is one of my favorite Lilian Bridgman designs, appealing to me years ago before I knew anything about the architect. Between 1918 and 1922, when this house was built, her designs became both more diverse in style and more unique. The house was built for Jenny Vennerstrom Canlon, a California artist who gained national recognition, mainly in Impressionist style. She helped found various art guilds and organizations and campaigned for equal rights for women. The house steps up along the hillside, with some of the windows following the form of the gables above, and overall with numerous windows to bring in light. The shingles, which are narrower and longer than usual, are also done in an interesting zigzag pattern. The current red walls with white trim were probably not original, as an early photo indicates dark wood trim, but I confess to liking the current colors. From 1955 until his death in 1960, it was the home of another famous painter, David Park, one of the co-founders of the Bay Area figurative movement, along with Richard Diebenkorn and Elmer Bischoff. Another very appealing design was in 1924 for Susan L. Hill at 3132 Eaton Avenue in South Berkeley. Hill was a jewelry designer who had studio homes in both Berkeley and Carmel, and she was also a champion for women's equality. This house also features a large multi-pane front window and an attractive roofline, but is in stucco rather than wood siding, since it was done after the 1923 fire. The entry is set back a bit on the side. Probably Bridgman's most impressive house was the Leroy Stevens house at 13581 Robledo Road in Los Altos Hills, on a fairly large lot and set well back so that it is not readily visible from the street. In the early 1930s, she designed this hunting lodge for Dr. Clarence Wills on Upper Happy Valley Road in Lafayette, now Rancho Diablo. Dr. Wills was a physician with an office in downtown Berkeley and lived in a Mabeck design house near Live Oak Park in North Berkeley, and later lived in South Berkeley. His daughter, Helen Wills Moody, began her tennis career while a UC student and became the first woman to be an international sports superstar. Between 1922 and 1938, she won 31 Grand Slam titles, including 8 Wimbledon championships and 2 Olympic gold medals. Bridgman's last project in Berkeley was in 1939 for Professor Bialetti's widow at 2661-63 LeConte Avenue in the International style. Since it was set up the hill with a locked gate, we could not get a current photo. But here are historic photos of the exterior and interior, as well as the floor plan of the house. In addition to the influence of Berkeley's Hillside Club, she was probably well aware of the views of Charles Keeler, author of the 1904 work, The Simple Home, and her work was in line with the philosophy of rustic homes, in harmony with the natural beauty of North Berkeley. They often had built-in furniture. She passed away in 1948. I hope you enjoyed watching this presentation on Lilian Bridgman, and it will join me for future videos in this series about Berkeley. If you're interested in fascinating self-guided walks around Berkeley, you can purchase the book Berkeley Walks, which I co-authored with Janet Byron, in your local bookstore. Or you can contact us to buy a book via our website at www.berkeleywalks.com, where you can also find information on other events, as well as many downloadable free walks.